I thought what's you two, Bono and
The Edge.
I thought the Edge was his guitar. I thought the Edge was his guitar for so long.
Oh my god.
So I'm asking you about the album.
Yeah, after you introduce yourself, I'll start off.
Okay.
All right, welcome to our music podcast. I'm Sean.
I'm Erik. Oh, fuck. What's happening with the album today, Sean? Do you know what it is? I don't.
So,
I want to redo the intro, or have we?
I reckon that was pretty good. I reckon that was...
We'll have it better next time.
Yeah. All right, so we always start off with if the album is still relevant. I think you can start on this one. What you think?
Is it still relevant? I'd say it is.
I
mean, feel like
80s pop music is still pretty big.
Yeah, I feel like you still the sounds that they use are still are similar. Like with what's it called? You see like that kind of synth and what's the term?
New wave.
There's like a style to like that 80s like synth music. There's like a musical term for it. Syncopation, I think. And like where you have the bass and then I think it's like a counter to it.
Yeah.
They kind of, or the melody, and they fit in between each other to make you it's like organized chaos, I guess.
Yeah.
In musical terms. And like you see that in both The Weeknd and Dua Lipa's.
Oh, I have that written down. I have influenced contemporary pop music like The Weeknd, Dua Lipa, the 1975, and Travis Scott, I think, as well.
Like I see Travis Scott.
Because no other rapper really uses those, other than like old Kanye, like kind of 2010s Kanye.
Yeah, 2000s Kanye.
And like Graduation Kanye, like that.
Yeah.
That's definitely New Order.
So I feel like you still, maybe not directly, but their influence is still current, because you look at Dua Lipa and The Weeknd, and they're probably, those two albums are probably the biggest of the last 6 months.
Yeah, maybe the two biggest pop albums, and they're both 80s.
Yeah, but you look at some of the songs closer to the end of the album, and they maybe like an Ultraviolence would remind you a lot of both those two artists.
Even like the end of what's the song called? 586, when it just becomes Blue Monday, which is kind of weird, but
like you still hear these sounds in contemporary music.
Yeah,
so
even
it's one of the most relevant albums we've done.
Yeah, and even I wrote for like
retrospectives.
Yeah, for like, even if you think about like the guitar sound on like Age of Consent is directly like all the indie bands of the last like 10 years. Like 975 is just like that song, just in different ways.
Also, another thing they do is they have a lot of reverb.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There's a lot of, in Your Silent Faith, there's that kind of from, there's that hum from the synth. In We All Stand, I think there's maybe The Village, there's also a lot of reverb there. In 586, there's a lot of reverb, and like slowed and reverb is a very popular remix style
type of
I
music,
guess. Yeah, so it's still very relevant.
Yep. Well, yeah, I think we got the same kind of stuff there for that. Do you think it's aged well?
Some of the songs, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the stuff hasn't aged well.
Like, I don't
Ecstasy.
know. I liked it, but I know what you mean. It sounds very 80s.
Yeah, the vocals on that, you could not get away with that anymore.
Is that the
it's the robot voice.
Yeah, the robot voice song.
Yeah, that's a bit much for me.
Also, I will say about relevancy, there's a lot of sounds which I don't want to say inspire, but sound like either songs later on, like you hear, oh, that's a similar bass line to this, or that in the background sounds like this, or that melody follows a similar pattern to this, or that sound that they use there sounds like this. There's a lot of like even in the 80s going on to the 90s and 2000s, there's stuff where I'm like, that sounds familiar.
Well, I think I remember the first time I heard Age of Consent, I thought it was like, I've heard this song before, but I haven't heard this song before, but I've definitely heard something that copied this before.
So it's clearly a very not just relevant currently, but
throughout history.
I guess, a blueprint type of not Jay-Z's album, The Blueprint, because I don't think anyone was like, that's how I make a rap album. You know what I mean?
Well, no, Kanye, I guess can't. Well, Kanye
yeah, but you don't hear like A$AP Rocky going like, man, I just copied The Blueprint word for word. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but it's like, well, Kanye took from Daft Punk took from New Order, who took from other French and German
took
artists.
From Daft Punk, like Das Commodore.
I was gonna say more like Kraftwerk, but
or who's the guy who did Rock Me Amadeus? Oh, I play Dr. Zayas. Back. What were we talking about before?
We were talking about how it's aged, and it's aged pretty well, but there is some dated stuff.
Yeah.
Like this, some of the synths sound amazing. Some of them sound a bit weird.
Yeah, I feel like We All Stand. I don't feel like that's aged particularly well.
I like that song, but you're right. It's a bit stuck in the 80s.
Yeah, 586. There's some bits. It's a very long song, and it's more like 3 songs.
Yeah.
And I feel like some of that is it doesn't really hold up fully.
Yeah, I agree. What are your favorite songs? Have you written them down?
My favorite songs were Your Silent Face and Ultraviolence, and then my third favorite was Leave Me Alone.
I had Age of Consent, The Village, Leave Me Alone, and Your Silent Face.
Yeah, Your Silent Face is a banger.
And it's also it's like, did you read the lyrics to Your Silent Face?
Yeah, I did, but I didn't write any down.
Well, it has the most famous lyric on the whole album, which is, "You've caught me at a bad." It's the very, very last lyric. He goes, "You've caught me at a bad time, so why don't you just piss off?" And he like mumbles at the end. Was this weird?
Yeah, I remember looking up the genius of that. I might still have. No, I don't have it up. Yeah, apparently that's according to the genius, it's like some. Well, it was some like ironic thing or something.
Well, yeah, because allegedly they would do all the musical segments. They would do lyrics last in almost every single song. Like lyrics always came last, and they weren't really that important to the.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because it feels like sometimes that the lyrics are kind of not taking up space, but filling in gaps.
Yeah, especially in like Your Silent Face, like the lyrics aren't that important until you get to the last lyric, which is just funny. Like I think they would just improvise them and try to make weird off-kilter lyrics, and
also kind of stuff that people will want to follow, kind of not things that's like, they're not going out there going, we're going to make it like a hit, but they're going out there going, people will like to hear that.
Yeah, like I think their idea is more so people aren't going to sing along to this; they're more going to dance to it.
Yeah, I remember thinking, well, when we get to this song, I'll show you what I imagine people dance to it like. But when I was listening to them, I was going, I can. There's one that I was like, this is definitely how just like people would dance to it. And then there was but the rest of them, I'm all like, yeah, this is stuff. Even the confusion, which we talked about for 10 seconds, and might not be used.
It probably will. It's from the same year. It's a single.
Yeah. No, but like that's more stuff that you're there, like, your dance. I don't like you. When I was these, I was imagining how people would dance, how to it.
Yeah, it's
How
the equivalent of music. If you went to like a club in like 1984, you'd probably hear some New Order.
mm. I had Your Silent Face, Ultraviolence, and Leave Me Alone. I really like the second half of the album.
Oh, I like. Oh, let me think about it.
I
I
don't
think I
think the
like the
first
first
half is
half
as
more,
strong.
but I think there's
Really?
yeah. But I like the beginning and the end. I think the middle is a bit weak at times.
From We All Stand to 586, I think that's the weakest part of the album. I just
Oh yeah, 5-8. Oh no, Ultraviolence, Ecstasy. I don't dislike Ultraviolence. It just kind of sounds like Joy Division to me, and I don't need to
yeah.
hear Joy Division.
It's like Ecstasy. I can't like. I don't know. I've got notes about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But like, it's not very memorable. It's not something where
And I don't find
I've saved everything.
I don't find 586 particularly memorable either.
Yeah, no, I don't either. But yeah, I feel. Let's see what about Your Silent Face. It's like it's bouncy and like with the synth and the drums, which
Orchestral
I
as
feel
well.
like that sets it up well. And then the hum the hum from the synths, um, they don't come in all the time, but like that reverb synth that comes in, that is it. Like I feel like you're in a trance. You're just there, kind of like,
Yeah.
and like that's you feel it in your bones.
I said
His
that.
voice is. I feel like his voice in that is probably the best on the album.
Yeah. Well, I'd say that and Age of Consent is
Like
his best singing performances.
yeah, and then there's a woodwind instrument that I noticed about. I think it was about halfway through. I can't tell you. I think it's a woodwind instrument or something that sounds like it. And I was like, that is really good. That needs to be either louder or I need to hear more of that. But
It could be a synth masquerading as a woodwind instrument.
yeah, I know it, but I'm saying it sounds like that because it's a synth copying that sound. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
They're so good with
And I was
synths
like,
at times, though. The way they make synths sound like orchestras is like amazing.
yeah. Because I was like, I don't think they've got in a guy to play like
No, they had no money really.
yeah, I don't think that guy got a guy in to play like soprano sax or like I don't know, like bass clarinet or something.
Well, there was only 4 of them this time.
Yeah,
And
I don't think I don't think any of them could do that, and I don't think they got a guy in, but it sounds like that.
they had Gillian Gilbert. She did the synthesizers as well as the drummer, and the singer. Everyone did synthesizers except
Everyone
the
did.
bassist.
Yeah, I feel like my kind of my problems with it is sometimes the synths are too much.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah. Also, that I didn't like the sound of that that high pitched synth or harmonica or kazoo or whatever it was. I didn't really like that.
Yeah.
I wish they did it with something else, and so that was kind of that's what brought it down for me.
So, but you also had "Leave Me Alone" as we both had that as one of our favorite songs. It's a
Yeah.
bit sad.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Yeah. It's when I first started writing one, it's like, man, this is bouncy, it's a bit upbeat. But then I realized it's not like that. I have to change it. I was like,
Yeah, one of my big notes on this album is melancholic dance music.
yeah, I wrote a bouncy nostalgia, kind of looking back and reminiscing and like lamenting that what's done is done, but also kind of like that Wolverine meme where he's crying over the picture and then you change it to whatever.
Yeah, but
it's like that where it's like that was great, but I miss it.
The lyrics to "Leave Me Alone" are actually really interesting. It's about how he says he sees 1,000 islands with 1,000 people just like him, and he just wishes they could just he wishes they could just leave him alone. It's weird. It's like it's dance music, but the song is about please don't dance. Let me just sit and think. It's really weird.
It's also like when I was reading it and listening to it, I was like, oh, he feels lonely, and he knows other people are lonely, and they're all kind of they're all individuals lonely.
Yeah.
But he doesn't get any camaraderie out of that. You know how like some people like will for like sad hours, like people listen to like sad music, and they'll be like, man, I'm sad. This happened to me. That happened to me, and they'll be like, man, we're gonna get through it. But he doesn't want any of that. None of the people in this song want any of that. They're all on their own islands. They're all on the same island, but they're all individually on their own island, and they don't want to be around people. They want to hide themselves away, go underground. They don't they don't want to find companionship.
The way I link that song in my head, I was like, there's definitely a link there between the idea of just leaving, please leave us alone, and like how when Ian Curtis died and when they were in Joy Division and they reformed as New Order, everyone was like hounding them about Ian Curtis, like what's happening, like who's the singer, stuff like it's just like, please leave us alone.
It's very good.
I'd say it's that and Age of Consent. They're very similar, and it's good that they start and end the album. Like, they're kind of like bookends, and it's their most traditional songs. It's the most like just these are some pop post-punk classics.
Yeah, these are very much like synth stuff. Like they're also they're very smooth. Like they're
they're guitar heavy as well.
Pauses, and there's it's I don't. It's kind of more traditional.
Yeah, they're closest things to like not to Joy Division, but I guess to pop at the time.
I guess it's also, I don't know how this analogy is going to work or this metaphor is going to work, but they're like caramel. I'm going to look up. Honey is more viscous. How do I get? It's this middle C that I got. Yeah, it's It's like a viscous liquid.
Okay.
So kind of it stays together, and it runs, but it's still together. Like if you break apart chocolate.
Well, it's
there's
like the middle.
There's a break apart, but if you take away the top bit of caramel from the bottom bit, they'll try and stick together. You know what I mean?
Like songs,
or if it's hot enough, they'll drip to each other.
Well, what you're saying is like songs 2 to 7 are like they're two things put together that could break apart, whereas 1 and 8 are like the mixture of all the things.
Yeah. Like, when you see like water, you can stop the flow pretty easy, but like with a more viscous thing like honey, it'll kind of stay with it longer, but it's...
Yeah.
I don't know, I'm getting tangled up.
Well, the only song that that I have as best that anyone touched on is Age of Consent, which is the intro, which is my favorite song I've ever heard from New Order. My favorite New Order song.
Really?
Yeah.
I kind of got a bit bored of that song.
Oh, man. It's a great late night like walk or bike ride song.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it when I was like riding around, but I was kind of like when I'm just sitting and listening, I'm like, could be better.
Did you get what the lyrics were about? I mean, it's not subtle, but like the lyrics and the song title are very linked.
I was a bit confused because like when you're hearing that and like you're going down a hill, you're like, is there something? Like, I don't know what's going on here.
I was
like,
at first.
I don't want to accuse you of anything.
No.
It's strange.
But if when you read the lyrics, he's the younger one.
Oh, okay.
So he's the one who's...
I was wondering why. It's strange that you said that because I was like, why is he saying you don't have to tell me about the birds and the bees? It's like
he's trying to like when it's like a younger person's trying to like act like they know.
You mean like J. Cole in Wet Dreams?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And like there's the lyric is like, do you find this happens all the time? Crucial point, one day becomes a crime. Like it's just one day what we're doing is now illegal.
I mean, it would.
Yeah, it would.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that's because I only started looking into the lyrics a few songs in, so I didn't. Stupidly, I didn't.
I feel like that song will grow on you. I bet it'll grow on you.
Probably, it's probably going to go on my synth writing playlist.
So, what do you have for worst songs?
There's something about it, but synth music is very good for a bike ride.
Yeah. What do you have for worst songs?
Worst songs, We All Stand and 586 were my clear worst songs.
Yeah, I have 586 and Ecstasy.
I feel like 586 is too long.
It's boring. Yeah, it's too long.
Yeah, it's too long. There's good sections in it, but it's like the middle section is good, but like I don't need like a lot of it.
There's no
and the start of it is too like herky jerky and like
the start of it's awful.
That it's but you know what I did like about the end of 586? How when they slow it down, when they slow it down, it kind of has that same chaotic, herky jerky staccato style as the first beginning, but it's just kind of like because it's faster and there's more layering. You don't notice it.
Yeah, it just the beginning is so clunky, and it's just like the transitions aren't that incredible. Like it goes into it becomes like a demo for Blue Monday, which is their biggest song. It's like why don't you just listen to Blue Monday? It's very similar.
Yeah, the second part is more futuristic than the first. The first is kind of I feel a bit like funk inspired with the herky jerky nature of it. It's a bit like it's too slow. The keyboard's annoying. Yeah, I feel like the third part is just. I like the kind of crescendo it reaches throughout the song, where it's very very slow, very strange, kind of alien, I guess. Well, and then it kind of becomes more futuristic, more mainstream. And then in the third part, it reaches its crescendo, and then it slows down and kind of sounds more like the beginning.
I'll tell you this. When I decided we were going to do this album, I decided to just fully go into all the 80s, all the New Order's albums from the 80s. And I'm gonna tell you.
I listened to then not the next album, but I think it's Low Life, the album after the next one.
No, that Low Life is the next one.
Oh, okay.
Well, I say from Low Life onwards, they do not do a song like 586 anymore. They get much.
Yeah,
more,
I know. I was
concise.
like, when I was listening to Low Life, I was like, oh, this is like a step forward. It's like an evolution of that one. It's got similar things, but it's more polished. It's smoothed over.
I think after listening to all the 80s albums, I'll say the best songs are on this album, but this is the least consistent album. Like the next, like Low Life, there's no bad songs, but there's no songs as good as the best songs on here. They're all really good.
So what was your other Ecstasy?
Ecstasy, it's just weird. You could cut that easily and put Blue Monday on. You could cut 586 and Ecstasy and then put Confusion and Blue Monday on, and I think it's a better album.
It's just confusing. There's they have a whole like compilation of just Confusion
remixes,
like how they adjusted and stuff. Some of them are really different to like some of them are very different.
Like there's on what is it on the album 12 after this, the one after Low Life called Brotherhood. The version on Spotify is about 15 remixes, and like 3 of them are all for Bizarre Love Triangle, which is like their big single from that album. But it's like they tended to remix things over and over again, and like the mixes on the single compilations are different to the mixes than to the songs on the albums. So like the single version of Bizarre Love Triangle sounds different to the version that's on the album.
I guess it's kind of like shows how much they like to chop and change.
Yeah, I mean, and they would just play. And when they play it live, they just whatever one they wanted to do. I guess like it kind of felt like they were always changing. Like a very Kanye thing. It's like you're never done with a song. You have to always keep evolving it.
So, what do you have about Ecstasy?
Just awful electronic vocals. What is that? Like it's just
I
respect the attempt because it's probably ahead of its time. It just hasn't aged well.
Yeah, I also think it's a bit bland.
It is.
Like, there's nothing. There's not too much like apart from the distorted voice stuff. There's nothing dislikable about it, but there's just nothing noteworthy about nothing noteworthy, I say, except the kind of. I think the percussion and the backing synth remind me of "Can't Stop" by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Okay, no, "We All Stand" is my least favorite song.
I don't mind "We All Stand." It's
like it's real herky jerky, just like 586 at the beginning, like kind of like trying to be experimental and stuff. Yeah. It seems like they're trying to find their feet. It gets annoying with that prod. There's a synth that sounds like it's poking you. It's like prodding. It's like it's annoying.
Yeah, I mean, I disagree, but I get it.
I like the percussion in it. Is very good.
Yeah, I like the drums.
There's the whop sound in it, kind of whack, if I'm honest. The section with the
Is
piano.
it like an
It
Italian
sounds like
yelling or
the
something?
yeah, the section with the piano in like the transition cut. It sounds like in a police drama or like a police
Yeah,
sitcom in the
I know
80s
exactly what you mean.
transition sound.
Yes,
Yeah, you
like it
know
would
what
be a
I
Beverly
mean?
Hills Cop.
Yeah, exactly. Uh, the guitar and the C is probably the best part of it.
Do you want to talk about? Do you have any lyrics? To
But no, I've got to say the end of that song with the drumming, that's that where it's kind of ominous and like it sounds like thunder.
Yeah, that's why I like that song.
Yeah. But this is what I want to show you. This is what I imagine people when they're listening to it dance to like.
Well, anyway, do you want to get into lyrics?
Yeah. So the only lyric I had is strangely enough from "We All Stand."
Which lyric was it?
Life goes on and on in this real life fantasy, forever to still for fantasy forever to still breathe. Sorry, I've forgotten to put in commas, so I'm just kind of like reading it all as one, and
Yeah.
I've realized there's a mistake. Life goes on in this real life fantasy, uh, forever to be still, breath held tight inside of me. Life goes on in this real life fantasy.
It,
I like that,
you didn't notice any of the lyrics though. That's the only one you.
and yeah, because like when I was like these are a bit like I don't know, they were just kind of like the ones where I was like, I think I have another one,
I
but I
have two
just
that we
haven't
haven't touched on.
highlighted it.
I have two we haven't touched on. One from The Village, which is directly linked to Ian Curtis. It just gets so obvious. It says their love died 2
Yeah,
years ago. Spoken words I cannot show. Ian Curtis had died,
yeah.
I think, 4 or 5 years ago, but it could have been written easily 3 years ago.
Mm. I think when I listened to that, I was thought about taking a lyric from that, but I was like, no, that's just too obvious. Like what it's very direct. It's very in your face what this is talking
And
about.
the other one I have is from Your Silent Face. The thought that never changes remains a stupid lie. Just weirdly
Mm,
philosophical. It's like, yeah, that's true. You should have some sort of change of opinion somewhat over time. You kind of stay the same.
yeah,
It's a very poignant lyric in these times. Let's just say that.
yeah.
I said I have some general notes. I have the first album that departs from the Joy Division sound into something new. Like it's like if you listen to the one before this, it just sounds like Joy Division, but a bit lighter. You know, it's not as bleak, but it still very much sounds
Excuse
like Joy
me.
Division with a different singer. Or two, actually, in the first album, both the bassist and the guitarist just singing on different songs. This is the first album where it's just the guitarist singing.
It was interesting because Movement was a Joy Division musical album with New Order vocals. And then when you get to Power, Corruption and Lies, it's a New Order music album with New Order vocals.
So that's another new interesting thing.
Yeah, I didn't really listen to. I don't think I've listened to that much Joy Division to kind of make a comparison.
It's a lot darker, less synths. It's much more bleak and about death.
You know what?
And yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about how this is kind of the beginning of a move away from kind of just, I don't want to say classic rock music, but kind of rock bands, guitar, bass, drums, and a move towards synth sound, artificial.
Yeah, well, that really starts with like
production.
The late 70s, because you get all these like German bands that are using synths, and then by like this time, all the English bands are just now they start introducing synths. Like you got Duran Duran, The Cure, New Order. They all start using synths as well, and eventually it's just like America kind of ignores it for like a couple of years, and then they fully embrace it, and then they go back to like Guns N' Roses. It's like they don't never stick with it like England and Europe does. Like Europe sticks to the mixing rock and electronic. US is like we kind of miss Guns N' like we miss that big Bon Jovi sound, you know.
Do you mean you saying us or do you mean the US?
US.
What they never got that sound, or they stuck to that sound?
They only spent like 4 years with New Order's kind of music as like the big rock music. Then as soon as Guns N' Roses and Bon Jovi came along, they just like, oh no, we're back to classic rock. Like we're back to
Yeah, we like that. We want to hear guitar. It's because have you ever seen that Dave Chappelle skit where it's like, I've been trying to figure out what white people dance to.
oh
I
yeah.
think I found it. It's the electric guitar.
Or this is a did you know? But did you know that originally, no, the original album is the same track list that we have now, but when it was re-released in America on cassette and CD, they put Blue Monday in the middle.
Really?
Yeah,
Because
because
on the
Americans knew
Genius,
Blue
on the
Monday.
Genius, yeah, on the Genius album list or track list, it has Blue Monday at 9, and I was
Okay.
like, so
Maybe
on the
it's
thing I'm
9.
listening, I'm like, Blue Monday isn't on here, and I was like, oh,
No, American
I just haven't listened to it,
83
or I have listened
American
to it,
cassette and
but
86
none of this.
American CD release. Blue Monday's 5. It's up to 586, which is like it's
It's just number 9 on the Genius thing, probably.
But why
Because
would
it's
you
like
go
that's
from
where they
58?
put the
Why would you go from 586?
586 to Blue.
It's just like here's the same song but shorter and better.
I don't know, just to draw people's interest, I guess.
Because Blue Monday was the big single, but it's just like yeah, I guess I would just remove 586. But then when they re-released the album, like this is like when they re-released it and said like this is the official track list, they took off Blue Monday. It's not part of it anymore.
My conclusions was of it.
Yeah.
A seminal album for 80s synth pop, experimented with the sound and led the way in moving from rock bands and singers towards synths. Themes of isolation and difference from the norm throughout the album. It presents their sound as kind of questioned and unknown.
Yep.
It's very experimental towards the middle, as if they're still finding their feet with it.
That's a good observation.
So many songs have sections which influence future songs and future sounds.
Yep.
The album is an illustration in a change of ideals of music, where synthetic songs began to move ahead of physical instruments, somewhat of a look towards the future.
But I think the reason that New Order remains so relevant since this is because they still kept the instruments. Like they never got rid of the guitar.
Yeah,
in all their albums, there's always a guitar.
Yeah, because people like the sound of that.
Yeah, but it keeps things together. Like it keeps the harmony of the two.
The synth is the glue. Like you'd have a bass line. Now they've got a synth line. You have an orchestra.
Yeah.
You have what's the melody? What has the chorus in that band?
Did you notice
that it has?
Well, you go first.
Like the rest of it has that melody, but then there's a whole bunch of stuff in between where the melody comes into that orchestra, and that is the synth, or
Yeah. Did you notice how there's more leading bass lines and synth lines than guitar? Like it's like the bass and the synths are almost like the primary instruments
in this.
Yeah, like there's so many bass
Yeah,
lines.
there's most of my notes are a lot of my notes are based on the bass line here, whereas in the other albums, there's not much mention of it.
Yeah, like all my best moments, so many of them are opening bass line in the bridge, stuff like that.
I also said that there's songs where it's somewhat psychedelic.
Yeah,
like with what was it called? We All Stand. I feel like there's a bit of a psychedelic sound in that.
Yeah.
I feel like the album begins with kind of a funk elements and some awkward sounds in there, but then it moves towards a smoother and more consistent sound built on based around synth.
Yep.
Or synths.
I was thinking in my head, about like them compared to like the other big bands that are similar, and the two obvious ones are The Cure and Depeche Mode, who are both much darker. Like they're not lyrically darker, but they're much gothier. And I think the reason that those bands on one side and then you have like Duran Duran on the other side were both much bigger than New Order is because New Order was like, they were in America, not for the world, but in America, New Order, they weren't happy enough, they weren't sad enough. Like they aren't goth enough. They are The Cure and Depeche Mode are full goth, and Americans love that stuff. They love Tim Burton.
Yeah.
And they weren't also
they do.
They weren't as poppy as Duran Duran, so they couldn't get the full pop as well.
Yeah. In conclusion, I feel like it's a good album, not A classic.
It's imperfect. I'd say it's a
Yeah.
classic for its impact.
I'd
It
say
has
it's
classic songs at the least.
it's impactful. It's iconic, but I don't think it's a classic.
I'd say there's classic songs for sure.
Yeah, but having
I
a
know
few
it's
classic
not
songs
it's
doesn't
not a
make it.
quality classic. It's more like
You can't
it's so
like
important.
you can't tell the story of music or pop music or synth music or almost any music without this album.
And because this is like the beginning of their run as like the best synth pop band and the pioneers. Okay, so next we'll be doing Disintegration by The Cure, which I much more lyrical, much more thematic.
Disintegration, you say?
Yeah. It's when they before Disintegration they put out their big pop album. They had a bunch of hits. And then
So what, they threw a curveball.
And the singer
They're
was
like, everyone's gonna listen to this.
And it was the biggest. Disintegration is their best-selling album because it has the biggest single they ever.
Do you want to listen to the remastered version?
Yeah, as long as you don't listen to like the 40 demos that are after the last song.
No, it's just the 12 songs. The last one is untitled.
Yeah,
that's
that should
correct.
work then. I accidentally saved the deluxe version, so I can't get rid of all the songs. It's really annoying. They're stuck in my Spotify.
It doesn't do that on Apple Music, luckily enough.
Okay, so yeah, I'd say much more lyrical than New Order. Much darker sonically, and longer.
It's an hour and 12 minutes. Yeah,
you might have to power through.
It's half an hour longer than probably the last two albums we've done.
But there's a couple songs where you're gonna be sitting there and you're gonna be thinking, surely he starts singing eventually.
Is it just one of them?
Just wait. It's worth the wait.